Hello and welcome to We Never Met, the podcast where I have interesting strangers on every single week. Today we have
Andres Crovetti.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
We've already been chatting. We're off to the races.
We're diving in.
We're already getting in. So we talked about it a little bit, but just give people sort of, you're a multi-instrumentalist. You play tons of instruments. I saw like a xylophone even on your Instagram. You dabble in a lot of things.
Yeah, I dabble. Probably the vibraphone is technically that one. With the metal bars. I play xylophone. I like studied percussion and I'm a drummer by trade. That's like the first instrument I've ever played. So drum set, but then like percussion kind of naturally leads you to like learn a ton of different instruments all the time because you're just constantly having to like pick up something new and figure out how it works. So that kind of has always been a part of my thing. And I've played guitar for a long time. So I've just kind of like, I feel like a lot of musicians, like once you learn one instrument, you just start picking up other ones and it's like, oh, this is an A. Now that's an, okay, I can figure this out. Yeah.
Because is there a different learning curve for different instruments? I would assume, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Each one has like their own idiomatic things that it's like, okay, you have to figure this out. Like technique things. Yeah. And I think certain instruments just literally to make a sound on them is way harder. Like trumpet. I tried trumpet once.
Trumpet.
Really?
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And like, instantly I was just like, no, this is not going to work. And I ended up having like, I have tons of friends that play trumpet. Okay. And all I like would hear about is their agony that they were constantly in of like how you have to practice every day. Cause it's a weird like set of muscles that you never use otherwise. So if you don't practice, they start to get weak and then you just can't play anymore.
You can't even produce sound, which is the key.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like it was like this, I don't know. Anyway, it seemed like it was a hard, like you just have to play it every day. And I'm definitely not that disciplined anyway. Yeah. But other ones, like everything has its own little like things about the instrument that you can kind of figure out and be like, okay, this is how I actually do this or whatever. But like once you learn one instrument, I think the more you learn, they get easier, at least to like play some songs and be able to hang, but to actually play them. Like I think any individual instrument can be like a whole lifetime of study if you want to get like really virtual status. Yeah.
So were you always like that from a young age, or did that come later in life where you're like really into instruments?
I feel like I've been like it for a while. Like I feel like I have memories of plunking away on a piano like at my grandparents' house, and then I started playing drums when I was really in like third grade. Oh wow. Because my sister was taking piano lessons. And my parents were just kind of like, well, you should take an instrument too, but you can pick, which was a cool parenting move. So I picked drums because they were like loud. And I remember going to a parade and like when the drums marched past, I was like, whoa, it's like so loud. I can feel it like in my chest. Yeah. So then I started taking drum lessons. But then my school had music in the school public or like music classes and band classes and stuff. So it was like, an option to play music. So I just was kind of always like noodling on things and had access to them. And my drum lessons took place at a guitar store, like a music store. So you could, as you were walking in and out, you just see all these instruments all the time. And it was like,
where'd you go to Lincoln Music or something?
No. So it was called White House of Music. Okay. And actually when I started, it was called GW, and then they got bought by White House of Music. Okay. And then my teacher left there, to go teach somewhere else because they kind of changed like how they were doing their private lessons. But then I started working at that place because when I was in high school, like I needed a job. So I did that. So I've just been around like music store and retail stuff, plus taking lessons, learning instruments. It's like kind of just always been around.
So you started working at the music store, and did that sort of open you up to playing more than just drums then? Because you got all this access to all these instruments.
Yeah, definitely. That was like probably where it really went off the rails, because I was already thinking about doing music like more seriously. Yeah. Because I was in marching band and stuff. And we would, when I was a sophomore in college, we played in a Thanksgiving Day parade in Hawaii. That's and like, so cool. To like play music with my friends and like travel around, I was like, whoa, this is sick. And then at some point I'd like learned that you could major in music. I didn't even know that was a thing because like my dad was a college professor, but he taught civil engineering at Marquette, which is in Milwaukee. Cool. Yeah. And I was pretty much just like, I never thought about it. I just figured that's where I was going to go, and I'd probably study that as well. So I knew I was going to go to college and probably just study some sciencey engineering thing. Sure. But then once I learned that like music was even a major, then it was kind of a game changer. But then, working at that store, is definitely when I bought a lot of gear, but I also continued to work in music stores even while I was in college and after college. Like music retail was typically my like 9 to 5 pay my bills job for a long time. But yeah, that's when I rented a trumpet because they had all these band instruments and stuff at the place I worked in high school. So I rented a trumpet, tried that because I was listening to a lot of jazz at the time. And I was like, yeah, trumpet, like Miles Davis is so cool. Yeah. But then after playing it for 2 nights, I was like, no, I can't. It's like giving me a headache just trying to like make sound consistently. So then I got a saxophone, which I actually kept for a super long time. They let me just like borrow it kind of like on a short term basis, but I kept it like all the way through college. And then when I finally went to return it, it was probably like a good 10 years after I'd gotten it. And I went to the music store. Notice? No, I mean, like, I think they had just written it off. Like they thought someone rented it and didn't return it. Yeah. But like the music store had changed locations, obviously completely different set of staff. And when I went in to like return it, they were just kind of like, what? And they couldn't like find it in their system or whatever. But I was like, anyway, I'm not playing this anymore. It's definitely yours. Just like, I'm just going to leave it here. You can figure it out. Worst case scenario, just call it like a donation to the store and put it back in your rental pool. But like, it's not mine and I'm definitely not playing it anymore. But I was for a while because I love saxophone. But that's another one that I could see like, if I really wanted to get good at this, it's a lot more commitment. I can like play some songs and noodle around. But if I were to actually try to be in a band, I would have to really get a lot better. And I knew that wasn't going to happen. So I just was like, let some elementary school kid use this that actually wants to get good at sax. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So if you could like tier your instruments, your top tier obviously is probably drums, right? That's the one you think you're most solid at. Yeah. I think like drum set is probably that's the one I've played the longest and that I have the most like chops in that I could like sub in bands and play. Yeah. I've played guitar like second as long, but I'm not quite as good at that. Okay. And then but keyboard, like keyboards and synths and stuff is what I've been playing more lately and putting more time into. So I'd say that like keys is actually where my like energy is going right now. Cause I actually practice like keyboards. I keep my chops up on drums to like sub in bands and stuff like that. But I'm not like trying to be a gigging drummer in that sense. Cause I was doing that for a while and it's just not really my thing. What don't you like about it? I feel like drums are super in a band. It's like a very supportive instrument. You have to be like, there's actually a lot of responsibility that I think when I was first starting to play drums, I just had fun. But like the more into music I got and like you'd play a gig and people come up to you and they're always like, oh my God, like drums are so important. And like, it's so nice when a band has a good drummer. And I'd always be like, okay, cool. But then as I've learned more about music and played more, it's like, it's actually huge like responsibility to be giving everyone like the time because and like everyone assumes that the drummer is like keeping time for everyone, which like they kind of are, but also at a certain point everyone's keeping their own time. But then the drummer's kind of has more of a role for like the feel of everything. Like if they're swinging it or laying back or playing on top of the beat or whatever. Yeah. And that's just like a lot of control over your time. Yeah. Plus like responsibility for everyone in the band to like, cause if your feel is a certain way, then they kind of have to fit inside of that. Right. Anyway, I was just like, it's kind of the same thing with saxophone where I was like, that's kind of the next tier if I want to get like really, really, really good. Yeah. But I don't think I'm trying to do that because it's like, I like playing it and doing my thing, but like there's a certain next level that like to really push yourself to. And I was just like, I don't think I'm that committed to it, which is funny because I have a degree in it and stuff, but like it took getting that far. So I feel like it's like a maze where you just like see the thing to the end and then you're finally like, oh, there's a wall. Okay, now I got to go back and like try something new or whatever. So that kind of happened with like drumming, I guess. Well, if you're not in, because were you drumming in like a band specifically that you were drumming in all the time? Because you fill in for musicians too. And I assume that's a lot harder to like go and drum for a band that you aren't really a part of. Yeah. Besides that one night. Is it hard to like pick up the songs or where am I supposed to go? Right. Yeah. I actually do think it's hard because I know that I learn songs like really slowly. I like to just listen to them a ton and like I have to actually like write down the form of the song and like make myself a little sheet music if I actually need to like learn it and perform it really well. Yeah. So and then I think too when you sub with a band, there's this added pressure because like you're just there for one night and you kind of just have one opportunity to like not screw up and prove to them that you were worth the hire. And there's always this, especially in like jobbing and gigging land that I was living in for a while. Like there is a lot of that, like external pressure to constantly like want to get the next gig and like be the guy for different bands. So it feels like when you sub with people, there is a little bit of like, well, if I really nail this, like maybe they'll call me again. Or I'll be in their band or whatever. And it's like a lot of pressure. So obviously that's not all real, because half the time they just needed a drummer for one night, but they really like their actual drummer. And there's no like chance of them having you in the band
or whatever.
But you put all that
in
pressure.
your mind. It is. Yeah,
exactly. So then I'm like learning the tunes furiously. And I think like it's harder when you don't want to like upset these people that you don't really know super well. Like if you show up and you didn't learn the songs that well.
Right.
So I think like there's a lot of added pressure in that way. But being in a band, because I was drumming for a while, I was in like 4 bands or 5 bands or something like that, playing vibraphone in one, like drum set in 2 other ones, gigging a bunch. But I think being in a band is also a different level of responsibility, because then you're like rehearsing all the time and need to be like invested in that project. So I was doing that for a while too, especially when I used to live in Minneapolis. So when I lived there, I was doing that a lot. And then I joined one band that was more of like a classical band that was like trumpets, 2 trumpets, trombone, French horn, tuba, and I was playing drum set and percussion. And that they would play concerts and then have like an educational package they put together to do clinics and things.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that was like full-time touring, like 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And that was when I was like, okay, like this is just a more extreme version of what I was already doing, but like I'm still not super into it. So maybe I need to like kind of retool my approach, because I'm playing drums now like every day, teaching people, going to schools and like doing percussion master classes and stuff. And it's like, if you're not fully into it,
that's a lot of time to drum.
Exactly.
If you're not fully into it.
And if it's not coming from like like an internal enjoyment of it, if you're just doing it like for the job or for the whatever. I think part of me was like, this is a job, it pays well. And the band had like a little bit of street cred. So I like thought maybe this is my first step to like getting into this scene of like that next tier of like professional stuff or whatever. But then as I was doing it, I was like, maybe not, you know, which I think happens to a lot of people. Like you think something's going to be really cool, but then once you start doing it, you're like, oh, dang. I gotta change. So then I started like playing in less bands, doing more stuff, writing my own music, playing more keys, things that kind of just like trying to remove the external pressure of like, what do I think I should do? Or what have like people told me to do? Or what do I think looks cool? And instead just like, what do I actually like doing? You know? And I went all the way back in my head. It was kind of a weird time. It was very like transitional, because I was leaving that band and then moving out of an apartment and like thinking about moving to Milwaukee or just like somewhere new, because I was traveling so much. I wasn't really in Minneapolis a lot. And it was a good opportunity to be like, I could just move, you know, whatever. Maybe I should move to Milwaukee, which is what I did. But, anyway, I was like, started to make some changes and do some new things to like go back more into what I actually just enjoyed doing in my free time. And even I remember going all the way back to like middle school when I was playing more guitar, because I actually was playing more guitar than drums for a while. And my private drum teacher, who I was going to lessons every week, and he could obviously, teachers always know when you didn't practice or aren't really doing your thing. And you think that you're like fooling them, because you're playing and you're like, yeah, I'm totally like nailing this, even though I didn't touch it at all. But eventually one day my private drum teacher was just like, do you even want to do this? And I was like, he knows. He caught me. But he actually did like an amazing teacher move where he was like, I thought he was maybe like upset and and I didn't want to like disappoint him. So I was like, no, like I really like drums. I just blah. But then he asked like, well, what have you been doing instead of practicing? So I told him I've been playing more guitar, and I was like, but I didn't want to like quit drum lessons. I was just like, I've been liking guitar. So then he just asked like, what have you been playing on guitar? Because if there's guitar, there's probably drums. And if you already are learning the guitar parts, we should just learn the drum parts too. So then he like found this book of all like Led Zeppelin drum covers. And then I was like, okay, then I got way back into drums again. But I went back to that time when I was quitting that touring band, and I was like, well, I remember I was playing a lot of guitar. I was like recording little songs myself in my house, just like playing the like multiple guitar parts in a quick little drum thing with like the webcam microphone and stuff. But then I was just like, well, I've been like writing music and doing that on my own when I was like in middle school, and then I just kind of stopped. So I tried to like get back into that and whatever, which was cool. So anyway,
because I had a similar thing growing up, where you know your expectations of something are often very different than what it actually is. You know, I was like really into radio as a kid growing up, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that. And then like I started doing it, and like I was, you know, on air on radio stations, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, this isn't what I thought it would be at all. Right. Like, you know, this is very different. And I actually don't know if I want to do this, but it seems cool to do. So maybe I should keep doing it.
Right.
You know?
Or there's maybe a different way to do this thing than what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
You know? I think like, it's funny because that's like, I've been trying to live in that space now where I'm like, instead of thinking about what it would be like to do that thing, I'm just going to do it and then decide if it was cool or not. Cause I can like think about, oh, like that would be really cool if I did XYZ thing. And then you create this whole world of like
this narrative of what it would be like.
And then you get into it and you're like, oh, this sucks. Or like, or this is really fun. I didn't think it was going to be that fun, but it actually is, or whatever. But then like, I've talked to so many people that have essentially you can like zoom out and just label it that same thing where you thought something was going to be cool. You started doing it and then you were like, no, it's not cool. Yeah. Now I need to do something else. And that's like been kind of the story of my adult life. Cause I've done like just trying all sorts of random things to be like, is this cool? Do I want to do this all the time? I don't know. Yes. No. I used to fix band instruments for a while. Cause through the music store, they like, I was helping the repair shop. I worked at a different one when I was in the Twin Cities. It was like the smaller mom and pop place, which was just like an incredible place to work because they cared about you so much. It was very like Minnesota. Like they'd just be like,
very Midwestern.
Yeah. They like remember everything you tell them. Yeah. If you're like of whatever you're up to, and then they're like asking you about it down the road. Yeah. But they had a really well-known repair shop and they would do deliveries and like, fix all these instruments for a lot of public schools in the area. Okay. So I helped them like go pick up the instruments, bring them back, catalog them all and all this stuff. And then eventually it was kind of natural for them to be like, well, do you want to learn how to fix some of these? Cause they'd always get really busy over summer. Yeah. So then they just like, someone had left and then they just needed an extra hand. So then they were like, well, you're already here all the time. Do you want to just try this? And then I tried it. And at first I was like, this is so sick. I'm like working at a bench, fixing clarinets and stuff. But then I was like, but actually this sucks because I'm getting paid commission and I'm not good at this. And like my paycheck is going to be $50 because it took me like a week to fix one instrument. Whereas the people that are good at it could do it in like half an hour or whatever. So, but it was like, even when you try something and it doesn't work and then you make a shift, I still feel like you get little experience points that you like can keep in the back of your head for the next thing that comes up. Cause like now I've been trying to do more of my own writing and composing, but then also like recording stuff and being in recording studios. And I have a dream of just being self-employed and doing like all my own stuff. But like, I think about those days where I was fixing instruments cause they taught me a lot about like how to bill yourself and like how to kind of cover yourself. It's like, okay, this instrument should take an hour. So I'm going to charge an hour. It might only take me 45 minutes, but then this other instrument's going to take me an extra half an hour. So it all like balances stuff like that. Yeah. So then I was like, well, I keep finding myself like thinking back to other times and being like, man, I didn't like that experience. And when I was in it, I hated it. But now I'm like thinking about it and being like, I actually did learn something from that. So, okay, I guess it was worth it, even though it was annoying. So just like constantly shifting and moving. Right. And I don't know. I have this dream that like that maybe stops at some point and you're just doing your thing. Yeah. But I'm also not convinced that ever actually happens. That you're just like, you're constantly changing and doing new stuff. Cause even when you like retire, for instance, then people think that's like your time to just chill. But I feel like I know people that are retired, my dad included, that like they just pick up a different hobby or start doing something they didn't have time for previously. Cause it's like you're always changing. You're always developing, you know, exactly. You're a different person 5 years from now than you are now, you know, totally from the experiences. And I think, you know, when I was growing up, and I think it's probably being an adult and getting older too, is that like a lot of the things that you choose to do are based on expectations of other people and like what you think other people will think is really cool, not what you actually like. Right. You know? And so you fall into that trap a lot, I feel like. And as you grow older, you're like, well, who gives a shit what other people like or don't? It's honestly what I want. Yeah. You know? I sometimes try to think to myself, like, and everyone's different for this, but like, I try to think to myself, like, how often do I care what someone else is doing, like with their life? How like when I think about that. Yeah. Like you see someone and it's like, oh, that dude like is doing this thing, but I don't even think twice about it because I'm too caught up in like my own world. And it's kind of like starting to try to like remove other people's expectations so you can just like figure out what you actually like doing. Sure. And how you want to spend your time. because then usually other people will see that you're just like doing okay and be cool with that and see like, oh, this person seems like they're having fun or like enjoying their time here. Right. So that's cool. But yeah, I like it takes I think it does take work to like break the pattern of thinking like what someone else thinks of what you're doing. Especially, I think at first I thought it would be easier to just be making music and doing my own thing and be like, now here's a little world where like, I don't have to care what anyone thinks at all. But then you're trying to share it with other people and you're immediately like, actually, I care what everyone thinks. In fact, it's all I think about now. So then like you still have to rework it. Cause even when I play, like when I play my own music, which I've only done twice, and it's like, who's going to fire me? It's my band, like whatever, no matter how it goes, like, it's just going to be happening and done. But I was still like, oh God, like I really hope this goes well. And I like want people to like it and stuff. But you have to just like also let that go and just like do the thing. Yeah. You know?
I mean, cause you know who Brene Brown is? She's like that really hot, not hot physically, hot, like, she's, you know,
smoking.
Yeah, she's a smoking psychologist. But she has that Netflix special and there was something about not caring what other people think and stuff. And she said, like, it's not about not caring what other people think because everyone cares. You know, it's about like choosing who matters, you know, who matters in your world. Like, because you can't take everyone's opinion in because that's just chaos, you know, but you got to pick the people that really matter and that like, okay, their opinion actually matters to me, you know, and I'll take that into consideration. But yeah, I mean, because you do now, so you had an album that you released called Instead Of, and then you also had an album release party. So how did that go, like the concert? Because you kind of talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, it was a wild time.
Yeah. Did you play the entire album?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. We just like played all the songs except for one, because there's one song on there that was just like straight improvisation the whole time. And it's kind of weird. Yeah. And I just like, that one didn't really seem like it would make sense to try to do live because like it just, I don't know. I wasn't feeling it. Sure. And like it was a lot anyway, but because it was weird because I had written all that music by myself. I played every instrument except for on one track I had someone play saxophone, but that was literally like the last one I was working on. Yeah. And I was just like, I want someone improvising over this, and I'm just kind of sick of listening to myself improvise. I would really just like someone else to be in the room. So I sent it to my friend Nelson Devereaux, who's like an incredible saxophone player, and he is like one of the most musical people I know. So he like, you can just send him the song and give him like one sentence of like, just do this in this section or like whatever. And then he'll just send you something back that's like straight fire. And I have like, I'm lucky to have like a few friends like that. Yeah. But he is one of them. So I just was like, I know that he'll probably be able to do this quick. Cause I think I texted him first and then he said like, oh, like I don't have a ton of time, but I can maybe spend like an hour. And I was like, that's perfect. Cause literally just do like 3 takes of improvisation over this song. And then I'll just deal with it from there. So, but anyway, so to try to play that music live was kind of weird because I was like, well, now I have to think of like, who do I want to play what part? How do I do this? So I played that show in the Twin Cities partially because I knew like most of my musician friends live there. So it felt like a good place to try to do the release show since
Did you recently move here?
I moved to Chicago in August. Okay. Yeah.
Me too.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Wow, cool. Yeah. And then I moved to Milwaukee in early 2018. Okay. So I like lived in Milwaukee for about 1.5 years and then moved here. Gotcha. And before that I was in Minneapolis.
And then before that you were in Wisconsin.
Yeah. In like high school. So I went to college in Minneapolis and then stayed there. Gotcha. And then came back. Yeah. So I've been kind of bopping around. Gotcha. But yeah, like most of my musician friends live there. I knew I could like put a band together in Minneapolis and I hadn't been there in a while. So I saw it as an excuse to like go there, hang out, see people. Originally, I was going to try to do like a recording studio internship as well, because this guy I used to live with was an engineer, but then it just ended up being more about the release show because there's so much random like things to do. Because I'd never really booked a show that was like all me. Like, so I set it up. I booked the opening acts. I put the band together, all this stuff. And it's like dumb how much work it is. Like, and
for one show too, think about like touring like
exactly.
that.
I can't even, and like, I think it gets easier the more you do it, but like the first time there'd just be like, I'm glad that I was just there with a ton of open space. Cause I'd randomly be like, oh, I need to go like print off this thing or like make copies or like do this, or I need to send an email, or I need to take an hour to like make a Facebook post, or I need to finish this thing or whatever. I was listening to the masters like a week before the show. I was dubbing. I made cassettes because I thought that would be like easier, and I wanted some physical thing to give people.
Oh, sure.